Hello, I hope you're well and enjoying this beautiful weather. I think that the weather is really important. It's certainly a very important topic of conversation here in the UK. Not only to break the ice, as I've just done, but I find that it's central to almost any activity. So, for instance, if I'm organizing a barbecue at the weekend and talking about it to my colleagues, when I leave, they're bound to say, I hope you have nice weather for the barbecue. And if I come back from holiday, the first question is normally, what was the weather like in Spain? If someone visits their British relatives after years, within the initial greetings, you may hear something like, so sorry about the weather. We had such lovely weather just last week, didn't we, Martin? Now, the Italians do exactly the same, but with food. So if you move all the previous scenarios from the UK to Italy, you get something like, how will you season the meat for the barbecue? And what do they eat in Spain? Or, you had such a long journey, darling, why don't you come and have something to eat? And just to mention my own personal experience, if I phone my mother to let her know that, who's in Italy, by the way, to let her know that I've just found the last minute ticket and I'm about to go and visit her, after the first few minutes of joy comes the dramatic question, what shall I make you? It's dramatic because she needs to get started on her shopping, defrosting some ingredients or some special sauce, and I have to predict what I will feel like eating after my flight when I get there. And saying nothing thanks is not an option because she'll make something anyway. So it's actually better to agree something together, especially since things have become more complicated in the last few years since I became a vegetarian. I should say actually pescatarian because I still eat some salmon, haddock, tuna, fish, possibly responsibly sourced. But the word pescatarian is not one that people use much in Italy. Actually, in Italy, there's either vegetarian and vegan or normal. That's right. Anyone who doesn't eat the Italian way cannot be normal in Italy. As you can imagine, the food culture and traditions are so rooted that everyone is very skeptical towards any diet, any food that differs from the one that they've been on basically all their lives. Even if it's the same dish, made with a slightly different recipe, maybe in another Italian region, you may hear people from different regions or sometimes different families claiming to make the best parmigiana, which is an aubergine baked dish, or the tastiest ragù, a red sauce in which different types of meats are cooked very slowly. So Italians are usually hesitant to try something new, even when they go abroad. I mean, they may explore new flavors, but even when they live abroad, they will always come back from Italy with their favorite cheese or some other typical produce like extra virgin olive oil, tucked in their luggage. Well, at least I do. Also, they never consider making changes to the recipes. Why should they? The ones that they use produce very tasty meals that have been loved by the family for 100 years. Now, the media is also responsible because it encourages this skeptical attitude. So the media often portray a negative image of anything that may challenge the Mediterranean diet. Veganism, for example, is hardly ever mentioned in conjunction with sustainability. it's more often considered in relation to any potential detrimental effect on people's health if one is not careful with their choices. Sometimes it is also presented together with other very extreme diets, like the roots diet or breatharianism, a diet which is made of air and pranic light. Other times it is ridiculed with sketches of comedians pretending to be the vegan hippie talking to their only best friend, the orange carrot. Or it is dramatized with stories of repentant vegans with big titles like, I used to be vegan and this is what it did to me. This defensive attitude is not surprising if you consider that food has become Italy's main source of wealth thanks to its extensive agri-food food chain, which goes from the fields to the supermarkets to the catering business. And it's a business worth 538 million euros, which is the equivalent of 25% of the country's GDP. And it's a business that employs 3.8 million people. Italian agriculture excels in Europe with over 60,000 organic farms. There are 5,150 traditional regional products recorded, of which 297 PDO-PGI certified specialties and 415 DOC certified wines. But, even if there is definitely an economical reason, I think that there's more than pure business behind such inflexibility. Many women, especially in smaller towns and in the south of Italy, prove their worth in the kitchen and are respected for their role, even if they are successful businesswomen. If their sons happen to marry a woman who can't cook, especially if it's a woman from a different country, that can become a very distressing matter for them. And for people, for instance, who have lived all their life in Italy, it is difficult to imagine how anyone could survive without the delicious homemade pastas, the freshly picked vegetables and herbs like green peppers and tomatoes, basil and parsley, the smell of freshly baked breads, the perfectly cured meats, the refreshing mozzarella and the great variety of typical local cheeses. Well, not to mention the smell of pizza cooked in the wood-fired oven, all complemented by extra virgin olive oil produced in the local oil mill, a real espresso coffee, excellent wine, and homemade spirits. It is really difficult for many Italians to understand that people eat very well in their countries too. That, for example, the Chinese cuisine is one of the healthiest and most varied in the world with all these fresh ingredients, trying to achieve a balanced diet to provide all nutrition that the body needs. Or that the Japanese cuisine offers an abundance of gastronomical delights with a great variety of regional and seasonal dishes. Or even that the Iranian cuisine has a tradition of 3 millennia, which, and I quote here in Lonely Planet Guide, which is a reflection of the very soul of the country and its varied terrain. Think camel kebab and dates in the desert, fish on the Gulf Coast, and a huge variety of vegetable dishes, with meat of course, in the fertile Caspian provinces of Gilan and Mazandaran. none of these poetic descriptions will change the Italian's mind on food. They'll tell you that one is too spicy, one smells bad, the other one will upset their stomach. And looking at the way the ingredients are mixed together, they'll probably tell you that's definitely not the way to do things. In fact, there's only one proper way to do things. It's the one that mothers have been teaching to their daughters all over the Italian peninsula. It's the Italian way.